Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second video, and this is your assignment for today. Welcome to Brazil Economic Decisions. Now, even though it says Brazil Economic Decisions, the reason it says that as the title is because you are going to be playing the part of the President of Brazil. So congratulations on your election. We're going to look at, you're going to be the President of Brazil, and you're going to have to answer some questions that deal with some of the basic economic terms that we've talked about, just to see, do you know how to apply those economic terms? So we're going to go through the questions. I'll give you some ideas of how to find the information that you need. And then, of course, if you have any questions, jump on conference, talk to me, okay? So let's take a look. So Brazil Economic Decisions. First of all, just to help you out, define these three terms. Define tariff, define quota, define embargo. Now, you should know how to do that between the first quarter when we went over those terms, the fact that the first video in this module deals with these terms. You have no excuse for missing these, okay? Now, once you've done that, you look here, so you're going to move this over just a little bit, and we'll go try to make sure that it's not as large. All right, and then hopefully see if our camera doesn't skip, because you guys know sometimes the camera tries to refocus and adjust. So hopefully we'll be okay. But question number one, if you were the leader of Brazil, which countries would you place an embargo on? Right now, what I mean by that is, right, think about some of the countries that we've covered that are really terrible, like certain countries from last week's lessons that you could find on heritage.org/index. Think about some of those countries. You might want to use them as an example of, hey, you know what, that's a country I might want to place an embargo on. Also, think about some countries outside of countries that we've covered this year that you know are really horrible. You might want to use that, but whenever you do, provide at least two reasons why you chose what you chose. Okay, so why would you put an embargo on that country? So if you say, I'm going to put an embargo on country whatever, please give two reasons why. All right, number two, second question. If you were the leader of Brazil, what countries would you decide to put tariffs on? Now, there's 2 points that we're going to do with this. We're going to deal with this. Number one, I want you to use, and I will have this linked in the module, I want you to use the resource map. So our wonderful resource map, because what I want you to get an idea of is why a country might decide to put tariffs. Now, we all know, okay, in the end, negatively, it will probably hurt you later on, but I want to go through this point first. Why would you do that? So, since you're Brazil, think about your resource map with Brazil. I'm going to give you, this kind of gives you a little bit of a hint of something you might do, but I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but here's an example. If I notice, oh look, there's cattle, all right, specifically talking about cows in Brazil. So Brazil deals with a lot of beef, all right, so they export beef. They export steak. But look, Argentina also has cows, and so they export beef. They export steak. So this would be something where Brazil, you could possibly see going, all right, I would put, as president of Brazil, I'm going to put a tariff on Argentina, right? And here's why. And that would be an example, because you're saying, hey, we have some of the same resources and we're in competition with each other, and I want people in my country to buy Brazilian steaks, right? So think about it. You can do that for any resource, and just pick a country. I'd say just pick a country in South America. Make it easy. Use this map. Pick a country in South America. Go, okay, here's why I would put a tariff on that country, right? Now, we go to question 3. Why could placing tariffs on another country end up hurting your country? So now you have to think, whatever country you pick to put a tariff on in question 2, what could happen that could hurt you because you did that? This is always important to balance that with tariffs. Same thing with quotas, all right? What country would you put a tariff on? Please know the reason why. But then number 3, how could that hurt you? Same thing for number 4. If you're the leader of Brazil, what countries would you decide to put quotas on? Use that same resource map. Think about, okay, well, which country might I be competing with that I might put a quota on? But then know that question number 5 is going to say, Okay, why could placing quotas on another country end up hurting your country? All right, so keep that in mind. Number 6, which countries would you want, this one we can make it a little bit larger, which countries would you want to form a free trade agreement with? So think for a second. You have heritage.org/index, and yes, it will be linked in the description box below. So you have that place that analyzes countries. So you can use that. I'm about to say it won't so much analyze the resources. So stick with Latin American countries, kind of the same thing we did last week. Use heritage.org/index to help you with 6, as well as that resources map. Because you might go, okay, wow, you know what? That country has resources. If I'm looking at my map, that country has resources that I don't have. So I want to form a free trade agreement where we don't put any tariffs or taxes on each other because it's going to benefit me because I'm getting resources I don't have within my own country. So that's why you need that resources map. If I'm Brazil, what resources, if I look and see, okay, that country has resources that my country doesn't have, I might want to do that. But you'll want to double check and make sure, right, hey, they're not like a dictatorship. They're not a dictatorship, are they? They're not a communist government. They have a communist economic system. So you might want to use heritage.org/index just to make sure that they're free, that the country that you're dealing with has some freedoms, okay? So I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, talk to me. Number 7, what are some physical trade barriers that would slow down trade for Brazil? Please use all the map resources you have, whether it is worldatlas.com, whether it's the maps that you've created for yourself. Use that, look at South America and figure out, okay, well, what would be some physical trade barriers that would slow down trade for Brazil? And then number 8, what can Brazil do to overcome the physical trade barriers? All right? So, 7, what are some physical trade barriers that would slow down trade for Brazil? 8, what can Brazil do to overcome those physical trade barriers? So think, in other words, how can you get around those trade barriers, or over those trade barriers, or under those trade barriers, or through those trade barriers, if that's possible, all right? Use your brain, all right? Make sure it's real, okay? So if I all of a sudden I look at what you've submitted, and it says something like, I'm going to use transporter. I'll just go, and all of a sudden I'll be there. Well, yeah, that would be nice, but that doesn't exist, all right? Same thing. You can use time travel devices. I don't know why you need a time travel device for that, but don't do anything like that, all right? Especially if your time travel device is named Skynet, all right? That is a joke. Your parents wouldn't understand that joke. All right, here we go. Number 9. If you could add a natural resource to Brazil that Brazil does not have right now, that means you're going to have to look at your map again. What would it be and why? And that's the key. Why? So if you just throw some natural resource and then you can't answer why, you don't get credit. What would you add that Brazil doesn't have when you look at the map, and why would you add it? Okay? So that is, I tried to do this a little bit fast. Just so, again, we try to keep everything under 20 minutes. But if you have any questions, ask me. So if you notice, you're using mostly that natural resource map of South America, but also especially for questions number 1, as well as question number 6, I believe. Yep, so question number 6. Those you can use heritage.org/index to help you out with figuring out which countries have freedoms or what are some problems that countries have if you're going to put an embargo on them, okay? Again, if you have any questions, and make sure you submit this, by the way, after you've done the assignment. If you have any questions, please talk to me. Conference is at our normal time. I will do whatever I can to help you out. Of course, if you can't make conference, email me. And again, I'll do my best to help you with whatever you need. All right? Take care, guys.